Hi everyone, this is Shoutouts Gaming. This is The Walking Dead Season 9, Death Mistakes. We've got a action-packed stream for you guys tonight. We're going to go back in time a little bit, and we're also going to play with time, like all the people in The Walking Dead are doing on both shows now. So it's going to be interesting because we're going to talk about some characters that have died in the past. We're only going to take it back a couple seasons, but I want to get your thoughts firmly implanted into this video, so everything that you guys type along the side will show up, so I have verifiable proof of what you thought was good with the show, what you thought was bad. We're going to talk about some death mistakes, things that maybe we thought were mistakes and then kind of worked themselves out, so we'll give the writers a little bit of benefit of the doubt, and then we're going to talk about some of the things that are probably going to play out this season that could potentially be death mistakes, and we know some of those already that have been speculated, and some of them have actually been spoiled. So I want to thank everybody for being here, making a little bit of time for us on this Wednesday night. Hopefully you guys are having a lot of fun with these streams all throughout the week. It's been an action-packed summer. We do have Fear. Real quick question before we get started. Just sort of get everybody's juices flowing a little bit and let them know how we do it in the 9-9 Army. If there was no Walking Dead, do you think Fear the Walking Dead would be a better television show? Just if The Walking Dead didn't exist and that's all you had on Sunday night and you know the only dead type of show you could look forward to, do you think it would give it a little bit more credibility? I know it's kind of a off-the-wall sort of question, but just something to sort of think about. Because sometimes we do look at them as the JV team, right? You know, we got Walking Dead, but yeah, they're working their way up to it a little bit. Just something to get you going. Also, another special announcement I do want to make. We're going to be doing this from time to time because, as you guys know, there's a lot of ways that people support our channel and sponsor the channel from 9-9 Gaming. So something we're going to start doing tonight is going to be Patreon thoughts. So those of you that are Patreon supporters, I posted a question earlier today about the stream. So they knew in advance what was going to go down, and I asked them a question that had to do with tonight's video. So instead of them super chatting, we'll have other people super chat. I'm going to mention a couple of their comments, and they know the rules. So if they commented today, then their comments are open season. So that's kind of the way it all goes down. So let's get started with it. So we're going to start back, and the first we'll do this in two different waves. We're going to talk about major character deaths, and then a couple of the patrons actually mentioned a couple minor characters I didn't really think about that didn't affect me but might have affected them. So the first death that I want to start with is right after the lineup, and well, I guess we could probably go back even further than that and say Denise, because Denise took Abraham's death. Let's start with that before we get to Abraham, because Abraham's going to be a bigger topic. Denise's death, mistake the way it played out. Did you like the way it played out? I kind of got my feeling on this, but how did you feel about the way Dwight's arrow that might have been aiming for Daryl hit Denise? Because it was a little bit of a shock. You got to admit, it was like she's just talking, just had her orange crush, and then bam, didn't even finish her sentence. That kind of freaked me out a little bit. That was actually one of the most shocking deaths. I was like, what just happened? And I'm calling a couple people here. Deborah Mooney says shocked. Samantha's okay with it, fine with Denise dying. Good shocking death. It was, right? Bad aim, Liz Burnett. Loved Denise, so Kimberly G was mad, upset about it. Laura says better her than Daryl. So I can see a lot of people, though, it was just a little bit of shock. What kind of made Denise's death interesting at the time was the fact that because of that, a lot of people thought Abraham was safe. So it was almost like they went hand in hand. You would not believe, and this was about the time where I really started to transition the channel. We were doing a little bit of both. We were doing chat, commentary, but we were also doing a lot of hardcore gaming. And when that whole suspense came down, I wanted to be, you know, like secret detective. I was looking for hidden clues and what does the orange crush mean. And in April of that year, I actually went on record of saying, you know what? I've heard the comic book fans, and I think 2 people are going to die. And I was just bashed. There's like, no way, they're not killing 2 people. It'd be a waste of characters. They're only going to kill Glenn. They kept Abraham alive and gave Denise her death because, this is the quote from many, many viewers, and they said, well, Robert Kirkman always said he regretted killing Abraham, so Abraham is going to be alive for all-out war. You would be shocked how many people actually went on record and said that. And I said, no, they're going to throw a curve. They're going to do something really, really crazy. They're going to kill Abraham because Abraham is the biggest threat, and they're also going to kill Glenn to make the comic fans happy. So, and that is the way it went down. Those of you who've been around for a long time probably remember those streams. They were much different back then. Probably a little bit more of me talking and not as much interaction because they were videos. They weren't streams at the time. So I'm going to transition that and see how you feel about Denise. Was now, because Abraham died in the lineup, you can see the segue here, was Abraham's death. Don't think about what happened after Abraham's death. You have to be kind of in the moment. So because everybody thought that Abraham was going to, or many people thought Abraham was going to live through it, was that a good move by the writers to pull a double whammy and shock them? Or was it what we would call in today's category a death mistake? So let's see what you think purely about Abraham's death, how it went down, how he was willing to die for the team, how he kind of had that bro hug with Eugene, all of the events leading up to it. Thank you, Lakeith, and I appreciate your longtime support as well. So Ron Burgundy says, death mistake. And Kimberly G, so what, give me a follow-up. What makes it a mistake in your mind? What should have been done differently? A lot of people are saying total mistake. And how do I articulate this? Abraham, I've said it a million times, Abraham was my favorite character. However, I don't think it was a mistake. I'm going to disagree. I'm going to take the unpopular road here. Wilson says just one, not two. All right, hold on, Wilson. Oh, you're jumping ahead. Because we can only evaluate Abraham's death as if we don't know what happened with Glenn yet. Of course you do. But just based on Abraham just got beat down, I was okay with it. Ready to give up my favorite character. Because of the context. Because at that moment, Abraham sincerely thought, if I die, everybody else has a chance to live. That's the only thing that made it right for me. I knew I was going to miss the Abe-isms. I knew I was going to miss just everything about him. I just loved his character. But that death to me was not a mistake. It made total sense to me. Whereas I think they tried, I'll ask you your opinion on this in a little bit, but I do have to use it just as a comparison. I think they tried to make people feel the same thing with Carl, and they had already done it a couple times, so they couldn't. And I did not feel hurt. We will talk about Carl in a little bit. Some of you may have, but I didn't feel hurt when Carl left. I thought it was just kind of, it didn't do anything. It didn't move me. I wanted it to, but it didn't. It wasn't sad enough. Later on, it was more sad, the effect on other people. But Abraham did, because I thought it was so valiant and maybe naive even at that moment. But I thought it was okay. So some of you may say mistake. Some may listen to kind of my rationale and say, okay, I agree with you, disagree. And I'm okay either way. I'm not trying to totally twist it. But I'm just giving you like someone who there's no doubt that my commitment was to that character. And I was okay watching the show after he left. So now this is the tough one. And I know most people, there's only one argument I can make with this. So Abraham is dead. And we either think it was a mistake or not a mistake. Now we got to move on to Glenn. And I'm going to tell you two different reasons of why I could see this playing out either way. So in your mind, and I'm going to read a Patreon thought, and this is from one of my patrons, Emmy Desiree, also a moderator. So Emmy's comment, as you guys are let me know what your thought was actually about Glenn. And it said, Glenn, I know it was necessary, but I keep thinking there was a lot of story that the TV show could have written and explored. And actually, I really miss Tyrese like Glenn. I think they both showed and brought a balanced moral compass to the show. And I know that this seems like to bring a big death sentence when that happens. When Tyrese forgave Carol was pretty powerful. And Rick will be, I keep saying over and over again, I have a funny feeling. I'm hoping I'm wrong. So actually, Emmy brought in Glenn, Tyrese, and Rick. So a lot of different emotions there with the characters. We got another one here too. And this is Jim Kelly. So Jim Kelly says, Glenn was the one for me. I was hoping he would escape his comic book death. Glenn was there from the beginning. Still remember when he called Rick a dumbass. I rank Abraham and Glenn's death second and third respectively. Or I'm sorry, Abraham, Carl, second and third after Glenn. So you can see a couple of the patrons, the Glenn death, they thought was a huge mistake. And I can see from some of the comments here, Lisa says, Glenn was gut-wrenching, but it was good TV. Kimberly G., Glenn's death broke my heart. So a lot of people thought it was a mistake. However, a lot of the comic book fans thought it was necessary. And this would be the other argument that I would make. For me, it wasn't necessarily a mistake, but I'm on record of saying how Glenn died, and there you go. LH Star says it was the manner of Glenn's death. I agree with that. I'm okay with two people dying, and I'm okay with it being Abraham and Glenn. I don't think either one were mistakes. I think it would have been cool to see Maggie have her hubby. It would be cool to see Abraham in all-out war. It added a different element to it. But I don't think the writers were terrible by doing that. And maybe I'm in the minority. But the method, I totally agree with that. Lakeisha says the method for sure. So, yeah, we're not going back that far, Tara. I'm only going back a couple seasons. I'm not going all the way back to Shane and Andrea. That'll be a different chat. Because we are going to transition into season 9. So I wanted to at least have a basis. All right. So now I'm going to throw couple minor characters out there before we get to the major. GB Outlaw says, love your channel, man. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate that. How about Benjamin? What do you think about Benjamin, Spencer, Richard, Olivia? There's 3 names I'm going to throw out there at various times because I know you're passionate about the main characters. Any of those death mistakes? Morgan killing Richard? Was that a mistake? Heavy metal dude, Jared, killing Benjamin? Was that a mistake? Walking Dead Nerd says Benjamin's death was not cool. But it did play a role. It made Jared into pretty dark villain. I mean, he was hated. There was a lot of venom toward Jared. And it also allowed Morgan to get rid of Richard. I wanted Richard to live too. I kind of like parts of Richard. So if people are saying Richard was not a mistake, then all of these are sort of intertwined. So those that agree that Benjamin's death was a mistake, how so? And I'll tell you why I don't think it's a mistake. And so far, I have not seen anything that I think is bad. Benjamin's death pushed Morgan along. It pushed Jared along. It pushed Henry along. It ended Richard's story, which would have ended pretty soon anyway. And Richard was willing to sacrifice Carol. Daryl was going to kill him. Samantha says necessary for the story. Didn't even care that he died. All right. First of all, some of you are saying there's a mistake to every single death that I post. All the deaths are not bad. And if we don't kill off characters at some point, the budget for the show is going to be like $1 gazillion. So there has to be an ending sometimes for a beginning. That will be important later on in the stream. So I've got Benjamin, Richard. No. I mean, I don't see anything as a mistake. So, BK says, I hated Jared anyway. All right, now we're going to shift gears a little bit. Oh boy. Sasha. Now, we know Sasha was leaving. We know Sasha had another job. Sasha's death in the manner she went out, trying to take out Negan, mistake? Good writing? It's funny how we don't talk about the characters that take their own lives in The Walking Dead that much. But both Carl and Sasha technically committed suicide. Kimberly G says Sasha went out as a hero. I liked it. I thought Sasha's death was one of the best. One of the best written on the show. Just, Negan thinks she's alive. Negan wants to negotiate. He's kind of threatening, like, don't make me kill her, Rick. I mean, yeah, how'd that work out? And then she almost takes him out. And it also added a nice element of sadness with Maggie. So I think very well written. Now, up to this point, not a whole lot of revolt. This is funny because we've talked about Abraham, we talked about Glenn, and the big pushback is how Glenn died. So, and we've talked extensively about that. Sasha, and we're still in a pretty good spot with what the writers are doing and how the story's progressive. Now we're going to get to a point where the audience turns. This is where the Fire Gimple petitions actually started. And I'm curious to see how many people did not think Carl's death was a mistake. Let's move on to Carl. And we'll talk about the pros and the cons of Carl's death. And how Carl's death, because Angela Kang is on record of saying that Carl's death will continue to be a topic in Season 9. Jason Ellington says mistake. All right, give me reasons that you think it was a mistake. And Lisa, there you go. Done in a boring way. I can give you credit for that. All right, I'm going to read a couple Patreon comments as well, because we do have some Carl fans out there. So we got a girl in a Chihuahua. Says, I'm thinking the worst for me was Carl. But what you said in the stream the other day was comforting about Carl dying for a purpose if it changed Negan's character. Because before, I thought he died for nothing. I am at peace with Carl's death at this point, but if Rick dies, now there's a transition. And we also got Walking Dead Nerd says, I think the one death that frustrated me the most was Carl, mostly because of the comics, though. Once they got to Alexandria in the books, Carl's story became so good and is one of my favorites. So you can see the way some of our patron supporters really feel about the moves on the show. Julie McGuire says he died by a walker bite. Really lame. I'm chasing the sun. Carl's death overshadows Glenn's, in my opinion, but Glenn's death also overshadowed Abe's. It's a good point. Jason Ellings is totally going away from the comics. But, Jason, here's the question, because a lot of it is a matter of perspective. And once again, I'm not trying to change anybody's opinion, but if your MO is to go away from the comics, then Carl's death is less of a big deal to you. If there are other reasons for the death, then it could still be a mistake, but it minimizes the mistake a little bit more. And the answers I'm looking for are not, it's a mistake because I love Carl. But if you said, it's a mistake because Carl was one of the most popular characters and you continue to kill off these popular characters that want to be on the show, then it's a different topic of conversation. All right, I'm going to interject something here because I rarely go down this path because I'm a fan first. I'm a Walking Dead fan first. I am a YouTube commentator second. Maybe. Depends on what day it is. But with Carl, the purpose, the transition, the importance of Carl's death, the way it went down. A lot of what you're saying is very, very accurate. Chris Ranning's like, are you sure? Chris, we can debate that. Did you need Carl to carry on the family bloodline? I mean, that's a topic. But let me take the alternate approach, and this is why I gave you a little bit of that build-up. Because as a fan, I support the show. If you keep killing off characters that want to stay on the show, that's not good. And some people are like, whoa, hold on, wait a minute. Kills just criticized The Walking Dead. Yeah, I can criticize the show. I like it, but I don't always have to be perfectly aligned with what it is that they do. And I've already, up to this point, here's the list of popular characters that have died in the last couple seasons. Glenn, Abraham, Sasha, and Carl. At that point, we're going to get to more in a minute. But Chandler wanted to stay on the show. He loved the show. He wanted the story. But many of you didn't think he could carry the torch, didn't think he could be the lead. No, Shane, I'm not forgetting others. There's a whole lot of others. I'm giving you some of the big fan favorites, and we're only going back a couple seasons. I'm not going back all the way to the beginning. I stated that at the beginning of this video. But it has been more rapid fire over the last 2 seasons. Think about it. Glenn's been there since day one. Morgan is on another show. Abraham's been there for a long time. Sasha, very popular character. Carl, very popular character. So these are not B-rated characters. This is not Denise, Benjamin, Richard, Olivia. So killing a character that has another job. Let me say this, all right? Stephen Yeun was okay leaving the show. He wasn't fighting and screaming, saying, no, I want to stay, there's controversy. He wanted Glenn's comic death. He had other roles. He was okay with moving on. That's a fact. Michael Cudlitz wanted to stay on the show. But he didn't. You got somebody who is not making $400,000 an episode, probably making 75 or 80, modestly paid for the show, that you could have kept him on reasonably. You could have satisfied the fan base reasonably, but you killed a character that wanted to stay on the show. Now, hold on. Once again, so what I said is I'm a fan, but I'd reserve the right occasionally to become a YouTube commentator and criticize a little bit. Sasha wanted to leave the show. She had another job. She wasn't screaming, keep me on, I'm going to stay here. So it's okay. Chandler wanted to stay. Chandler and Michael are in the same bucket. They're fan favorites that could have stayed. We're not going to make a whole boatload of money. And if the story worked out, you could have kept them. And you could have kept a few of us a little happier, right? Drake, this is not a Gimple bashing session. And you can do that once or twice. But you can't keep doing it over and over again. That's where they're going to lose their impact. That's where they're going to lose their power. And that's where you can't be so arrogant to think that you can take any character and make them into a superstar, because you can't. You can't always do that. Jerry is not Abraham. Jerry's good, but Jerry ain't Abraham. Ain't as funny as Abraham. And can you guys, this Lynn person, can you make sure they never show up in our chat again? Just kind of ban them, keep them out. Sorry. You are no longer invited to our chats. Enjoy the rest of your YouTube experience. Okay, he's gone. So, Brittany, let me say this. I don't see that as a sellout. And because I hear that. I'm going to get back into it in a second. But I do have to play the role of writer, producer, business person. When they're making these moves, they're not doing it to sell out. They're not doing it to disenfranchise or isolate themselves. They honestly do it because they think that people will agree to it and adapt to it and enjoy it. They're not writing this stuff to make you not like the show or to push you in a certain way. And that's where I said, now, Brittany, on the flip side of that, it doesn't mean that they're not arrogant. It doesn't mean that they're not naive. It doesn't mean that they don't have the pulse of the Walking Dead community. I can probably tell you most people in this chat have a much better feel for the Walking Dead community than the writers who should be researching it and digging down a little bit deeper. Hold that thought for 1 second. I'm going to get back to that in 1 second because I do want to jump over to Super Chat. This is Jimmy's Jam and Super Chatting saying, killing Carl was nothing more than the writers trying to fix the mistake of making us loathe Negan by making him so crazy, vicious. Writers. And yes, Jimmy, to most of that, but also the Rick story is a piece of that as well. So I think you've got the Carl death relates to Negan and it relates to Rick. So I think you're definitely on the right topic there. So the one thing that I try to do, and definitely in a lot of these streams, is the anti-Kirkman, the anti-Gimple, you screwed up the show, you did this is stupid. It's almost like a mistake and then you're done. And if it was intentional, I would, throw a log on the fire, but it's not intentional. And what I'm trying to prove by that is many of the deaths that I've already talked about, when you break it down, a lot of you said, look, yeah, I like that character, but it wasn't a mistake now that I look at the story and how it relayed to something else. So I'm not here necessarily to catch the death mistakes. I'm here to talk about what could be perceived as a mistake, and then maybe we look at some other contributing factors and realize, okay, well, it wasn't really that bad. Or vice versa. We may look at something and say, like we just did, and say, you know what? Carl's death made sense, but then if we look at the opposite and say, but hang on, wait a minute. Chandler wanted to be with the show, and they could have made it work. Then at that point, you're taking the opposite approach and saying, well, it didn't seem like a mistake, but maybe it was a mistake in hindsight. Same thing with Michael. You know, did they have to kill Abraham? Could they have killed somebody else? Could they have killed Rosita and Glenn? Maybe. But Abraham at the time seemed to make sense. But if you look back on it, hindsight, he wanted to be on the show. So now we've got Carl and Abraham really in the same bucket. Now we have to take another, this is not a B character, but he probably wasn't an A character. Probably a B+. So now I need to transition and ask you about Simon. Simon's death. Was it a mistake? Now, Simon's story got awfully dark, awfully fast. Executed the scavengers. So, although we thought Simon might be going off to do something else, and many people thought that Negan would die before Simon and Simon would take over. Chasing the Sun says not a mistake. I don't think it was a mistake either, even though I thought Simon could go in a different direction. Grim Reaper says wanted Simon to live. Maria says Simon's death was needed. So many people agree with the writing here. You say, okay, Negan killed Simon. Simon's death did a couple things. One, it changed the perspective of the scavengers. Remember, people hated the scavengers at one point. It changed the perspective of Negan. People hated Negan at one point. So it gave Negan a little bit of that, hey, I'm going to start doing the right thing every once in a while because what you did was wrong. And it also started to make us feel a little bit of sympathy for Jadis. Remember, we hated Jadis in the beginning. She shot Rick. Funny how a lot of people forgot about that. I'm going to get back to that in 1 second because we're going to talk about the next person that's up. But Julie McGuire says, if Chandler was still on the show, think Andy would be leaving. I know he said it was his family, but part of me thinks he left over Chandler. I'm going to ask this question because, Julie, I've seen a lot of people debate it, and I wouldn't be surprised if 30 to 40% of our viewing audience would agree with you. I don't. Because to think that would be me thinking that Andrew Lincoln is a liar. But I'm going to use that as the Super Chat spotlight. How many people here think that Andy does not want to spend more time with his family? This is a big front, and he's leaving the show because the death of Carl. I actually think the opposite. I think Carl died because Andy notified them well in advance. And it just, I don't think this came out of the blue. And I appreciate that comment because it is, you're not alone in that. There are people. Stephen Chip says he lost interest. Logan says both. Maybe. Julia Drum says total front. Here, this would be the deciding factor for me. Two things that I would say would kind of disagree with that. One, I don't think Andy would use his family as an excuse. I think that would be disrespectful to say, I need to spend more time with my family. Because then your family would know you're a liar. And number two, he's put 10 years of his life into this character. So when someone puts 10 years of their life into a character, he knew at what point he wanted to walk away, in my mind. And I think before last season, he notified them that he was going to leave. And I think Chandler was written off because they needed a way to finish this war end Andy's reign and also develop Negan. So I think it's the opposite of that. To think otherwise would be to question Andy's integrity, and I tend to take it at face value. If he says he wants to leave because of his family, then I'm okay with that. But some people are going to disagree. All right. And I am glad that you brought this up, because now it is time to get to the potential death mistakes. How about that? Because we don't know that they're going to die. We've only heard. It's time to talk about Rick Grimes. And now I will criticize the writers before it even happens. Because if Rick dies, it is by far, no doubt about it, the biggest mistake the show has ever made. I'm going to go on record as that. I don't know how I'm going to stream the reaction video. It won't kill the show, because fans are going to watch the show. It will affect the show. It will affect revenue. And I'm going to give you a lot of reasons why, if they kill Rick, it's a mistake. Number one, all of the 999 Army, everybody in here, and as a matter of fact, hold on, before we even get to the next point, why do we have 200 plus people in here and only 6 people hitting the like button? Come on, people, slide the mouse over, hit the thumbs up button, show a little love for the 999 Army. We do this every single night. You are a part of it. You're not only showing a thumbs up for the stream, you're showing a thumbs up for all these comments, all these people that show up every night, not just Killshot, but for the whole entity, everybody in this group. All right, now we got that. That's my little bit of my rant and my rage. So now back to Andy. From a business perspective, it hurts revenue. It hurts interest in video games that have The Walking Dead. It hurts revenue in Walking Dead covers, pillows, bobbleheads, all of the above it affects in one way or another. And everybody in this room, almost everybody in this room, we have racked our brains and we can't find an epic death, right? And we've never heard a single person in an interview to this point say that Andy dies, or Rick dies, sorry, not Andy. So no one has even accidentally said the death of Rick Grimes. The only people saying the death of Rick Grimes were spoiler sites, news sites, YouTubers. Not one person. They talk about the exit, Andy leaving the show. Now with Maggie, they're a little more bold, and we'll get to that in a minute. They're open-ended. With Rick, it is mysterious. So what did we do? We said, you know what? You're not going to tell us. We're going to talk about it. We're going to analyze it. And we can't come up with a death that is epic. But they do say that Andy's exit is epic. I've heard that. But I haven't heard his death. We've talked about stabbed by a whisperer. We talk about decapitated by Alpha. We talked about riding off on a white horse. We talked about saving Judith. We talk about could he get Lori's death and someone shoots him in the back. I mean, we've talked about everything. And we're still here scratching our head saying, it just doesn't work. It's Rick Grimes. It just doesn't happen. Helicopter lands on top of him. I don't know. We've gotten some crazy stuff out there. Saving Negan. It just doesn't work. Hold on. Getting in now. That's why it's a death mistake. So everyone here, 95% of you are definitely on board Rick's not going to die. So if there's one or two here, or a few people, and if you're watching the playback, leave it in the comments below. Give me a Rick death that you think is appropriate. If you think, honestly, that Rick is going to die, give me your best theory. Give me something that I can read it and say, ooh, I like that. Yeah, okay. If they kill him, that's the way to go. I told you, if Abraham died, I said, okay, if that's the way you're going to kill him, I like Abraham, but I'm on board with it. It's good writing. So I just got to have the one theory. Anybody, I'm just going to challenge you. Just give me something. Paul ain't going to happen because Alpha's not going to be introduced until later. So we know that's not going to happen. But if it did, but we can take that equation out. Daniel, not going to happen. Rick and Alpha will not cross paths. Fearscope says, I think Daryl might stab Rick. That ain't epic. That's craziness. Daryl goes berserk and kills Rick? No way. Now you're going to have half the viewing audience that love Daryl. Now they're going to hate Daryl for killing off Rick. Nope. That's not epic. Die saving Michonne and Judith. Nope. Been done. We've seen people sacrifice themselves. So I don't see anything that satisfies, as a viewer, a Rick death that I could walk away with. And it's not because I'm a Rick fan. I am not a hardcore Rick Grimes fan. I like Rick. I see his value to the show. And I understand from start to finish, he's the man, right? But he's not the one character that I always like, hey, you know, Rick, that's my dude. No, I mean, so I can be somewhat neutral as long as you sell me a good story. I've not seen a good story. I have not heard anybody accidentally say he dies. And I have heard people say the way he goes out is epic. So you add all three of those up and it tells me he's not dying. And if he did die in any one of those ways, then bam, there's the title of our video. There's your death mistake. So of all the other deaths that I said were not mistakes, and then we could go back and sort of cross-examine them, this would be the biggest one. All right. Moving on. I got two more I want to talk about. So one is Maggie. Now, apparently Maggie is not dying, or if she is, Lauren Cohan is a very good liar. But once again, I'm going to take the interviews and the repeated comments publicly that I have to take her at her word. Okay? She says her story's open-ended. She could come back. But I don't think killing Maggie would be a mistake. Now, this is probably not going to be very popular. But if they were to kill Maggie, and it was done the right way, I could see it as beneficial. Like Paul says, I used to like Maggie, but not so much anymore. And part of it is because we don't know who Maggie is. So I'm going to ask the group, and Lakeisha right there said, head on a spike, head on a spike. What's a way that Maggie could die that you would see it as not being a mistake? And here's the flip side of that. We as fans, as the pulse of The Walking Dead, are telling the writers, the producers, everybody that's watching and listening right now, we're telling them that killing Rick would be a mistake, killing Maggie would not be a mistake. If they do the opposite of that, I'm going to have a big problem with that. Because now, you're just testing the loyalty of the fans. Because there are things that you can do. You can have Rick leave it open-ended. You can have him exit. You can have him talk on a walkie-talkie. You could recast him in 2-3 years if you wanted to with an older version of Rick. It's not going to be popular, but there's things you can do. So I'm just saying, don't be that arrogant and naive. I'm reading a couple comments here. I'm still with you guys. Julie says Rick dies. I don't even know. I could type after that. Randy Walton says, why kill Maggie off? Randy, I'm not saying that you need to kill Maggie off. I'm just saying there are storylines that you could, and it would make sense. You could keep her alive, and it would make sense. I'm not advocating you kill her or you don't kill her. I'm just saying from a conversation point of view, it's more reasonable to kill Maggie than it is to kill Rick. There's some stories that could work if you killed Maggie. I don't think there's a story that could work if you killed Rick. And what it appears to be publicly is that they're okay with saying that Maggie is leaving, but they want us to be curious of not whether, they want us to watch. Is Rick going to die? Is he going to die? And I think the only reason you do that, it's very, very intentional. I'm going to let a couple of the comments catch up. Over the last couple years on The Walking Dead, there has been more heartbreak than hope. Give me a time over the last couple years where you felt uplifted watching The Walking Dead, where you felt good about it, where you felt like you got somebody to cheer for. And then give me examples of times where you've been disappointed and you lost someone and someone, you killed another character off. All of the above. So if you lure the audience into thinking that Rick is going to die and you don't kill him, there's your moment. That's what I think the writers are doing. That's what I hope the writers are doing. So, because we haven't had those moments where we felt good about it again, and we've said that Rick represents hope, making the audience think that Rick could be in a lot of trouble and then he lives, he survives, the memory, the thought, something carries on, that's a good moment. It is definitely a difference. Because if you kill him, you ain't coming back from that. And the last character that we're going to talk about tonight, and this is a spoiler. So if you haven't heard already, we haven't seen pictures. Lord, let me just say this again. Please don't come into a stream and promote your channel. I mean, it's just tacky. When I see that happen, I just think of, I just want to run, I want to kind of imitate you. I want to run into McDonald's and say, hey everybody, buy a Whopper. Just don't do that. Why do you even do that? We're here to talk about The Walking Dead, not your channel. All right, so the last character we're going to talk about. And it is rumored, it is supposedly leaked, it is supposedly spoiled that Jesus will die to the Whispers. Mistake or not a mistake? Don't answer with your heart, answer with your head. The first response is going to be people answering with their heart. Mistake. I see it. I see it already, Brittany. Daddy Corleone, mistake. Paul Nicholas, mistake. David Brooks, mistake. A lot of people saying it's a mistake. Wasted character. I'm going to tell you where I don't think there's a right or wrong to this. First of all, based on what we talked about before, he's a popular character, could be a waste, you could develop the character. So in that sense, yeah, it could be a mistake. However, hold on. I got to play both sides of the fence here. If Jesus is decapitated and put on a spike, and that makes us hate the Whispers, and that really fuels the war, and it has to be somebody, I don't think Tara's going to spark that outrage. I don't think Heath and Sherry's going to spark that outrage. It has to be somebody. If it's not going to be Maggie, it could definitely be Jesus. And I think Jesus is going to go out like a champ. I think he's going to take some out. I think he's going to do some Hong Kong Phooey. He's going to do Legend of Billy Jack. And then I think it's going to be a brutal, epic death that is going to be moving and is going to rip your soul out. And I think the feeling that we think that we will have if Rick were to leave, I don't think they're going to give us that Rick feeling. I think they're going to kill Jesus in that way. And I think we're going to feel a big loss. And we're going to hate the Whispers. And in that regard, I can see it being a very good writing tool. But once again, we could put him in that same bucket as Abraham and Carl and say, you know what, maybe Tom Payne wants to stay on the show and you got a character that is modestly paid and you could do a little bit more with him. So if you look at it from that perspective, it could be a mistake. So I think it's important to give the writers a little bit of a pass, and this is why I think a lot of you hopefully can see both sides of the coin here. Sometimes it looks like a mistake because we like these characters and we're very passionate about it. But then if we had the job of these writers, which is a very, very tough job, and it is not to kill the audience because it is what they get paid to do. Then you realize that you can't make everybody happy, and you got to try to advance the story. You do have to take people off the show. You can't have a show with 1,000 actors and nobody ever dies. But the strong characters and the weak characters, we need to talk about that. And I will talk about it in 1 second as we wrap up. But I do have a super chat, and it is Richard Barnes. And Richard Barnes says, have you heard anything about Judith after Rick's exit? No, I've not. All we have heard from the preview special was when Angela Kang talked about Michonne's challenges after Rick, but I don't think there's pictures of Judith. So the speculation is that Rick and Judith their story could end at the same time. David Brooks, we have heard that Negan is out and about. And I think I have strong reason to believe that Maggie and Negan will come face to face. And there will be no death of Negan. And I have speculated that, remember, you guys heard this several weeks ago, I think Judith and Rick and the helicopter are a story. Control, they may tell a good story, but you're not at their channel, so yes. And the way I potentially see it going down, and we've talked about this in a couple of the predictions, is I see Maggie tied to Georgie after her inability to kill Negan, and I see Rick and Judy on the helicopter. And we'll dig down a little bit further. But I've seen no pictures that contradict that. I've seen no filming schedules that have contradicted that at this point. Through major spoiler sites, I have not seen anything that confirmed Judy in the second half. I have not seen anything that have given me reason not to stand behind those theories. And like many of our theories, we'll start to chip away little by little. Michonne, yes. Michonne, Negan, Daryl, all in the second half, filming schedules. In fact, they were all filming this week. So, no Maggie after 6. But Daryl, Negan, Michonne, all filming together. Daddy Corleone, I'm not saying that they're openly going to kill Judith, but I do think Rick and Judith's story ends at the same time. All right, and just a last thought that I'm going to leave you with. Somebody had left a comment in one of the videos, and we'll talk about the realism. But when there is a lapse in a story, is when some of these really strong characters die and the weak characters still find a way to survive. So I just want to prep you a little bit for that, because that may be a topic of conversation coming up tomorrow night. Strong characters versus weak characters. I think we have a lot of fun with that. We'll add a couple more topics to it as well. So we are hitting 58 minutes. It goes fast, so we're going to wind the stream down. I appreciate everybody's participation. There's a lot of deaths, a lot of things that we look at as mistakes, things that we could go back and second guess and evaluate. But your interaction, your involvement, absolutely phenomenal. If you're watching the playback of this video, you're not watching it live, this is going to be the closing credits. If you're still here, I'm going to do some shout-outs. Once again, I want to thank all the patrons. You can see them in the upper left-hand corner. One thing that we will start doing is, if you are a patron supporter or you're interested in supporting the channel, there's a link down below. We're going to do polls and surveys on the site a little bit earlier than the stream, and I'll get their opinions and include their opinions in some of the videos. Just another way to kind of recognize that group. Also, you can see the sponsors over in the top right corner, or members. They get the custom emojis, and their name is also in green. Thank you for everything that you guys do. And, of course, a big super shout-out for everybody who's here. But you know what? I'm only going to shout out the people that have hit the like button. How about that? Because if you don't like me, why should I even shout you out? No, give me a quick 999, but also make sure you hit that. Show people that you care. When this video goes live, leave comments and comment on other people's comments. We love the interaction. And if you want to hang out during the week, we got a Facebook fan page called The Walking Dead 999 Army. So you can post your stuff and talk back and forth and see when we're going to stream, a calendar of events, all of those things. We got everything happening. So thank you so much, everybody. A few shout-outs. I want to say hello to Katerina, Maria Favada, I'm Chasing the Sun, Michael Curie, Stephen Chip, Fearscope, Daddy Corleone, Bitnova, Lori, Sam B, Sergeant Chosen One, Zane, what's up, Zane? Samantha Coombs. My moderators are absolutely unbelievably, undeniably awesome. That would be Emmy, Steph, Tommy, and Kells. What a wonderful job all of them do, and the dedication. They're here each and every night, like many of you. Gina Crockett, thanks for being here. Sasha Eller, Ron Burgundy Moore, John Brody, Kirby Hughes, Newfield 12, Geese 74, Delmarva, Rosanna Jude, thank you. Davey Dolly, Shelton Arthur, Jimmy's Jammin', always in the house. Maggie B, Shane Hassan, thank you. Bama Girl, I know who you're pulling for when football season starts. Melinda Kettler, Darlene Rainig, Chris Rainig, Shane Yutzi, E-Beach 72, Rob Morris, have a good night. Justin Barrett, thank you. Kemper Cole, Toxic G. And once again, I know we can't get to everybody's comments, but they are part of this video, and you can see when you make a comment, other people comment on your comments. But those of you that show up each and every night and continue to participate and continue to help this channel grow, thank you so much for everything that you do. If this is your first time here and you're hanging out with us, the bottom right corner you can see a 999. Subscribe and get in these chats and just, make your ideas and make your feelings known. We have one of the fastest growing live forums that's out there. You don't have to wait 24 hours to see how somebody commented on your comment. It happens live, and you guys make the video, so thank you so much. Anna Smith, thanks for being here. Kimberly G. Wow, we got 2 Kimberly Gs. Imagine that. That's pretty awesome stuff. What's the odds? Casey. Thank you, Casey. Have a good night. From Illinois. Lisa, appreciate your interaction, your comments. Deborah Mooney, thank you. A girl in Chihuahua. Bumblebee Brown. I think Bumblebee got a double shout out. That's okay. T-Ray, tomorrow night at 9:30. Oh, well, a few more people. Kelly Golanzinier, Crystal Gore, Joka Wiley, Brittany Bryan, Patrick Ivers, Mitch True. I missed a lot of people. We'll be here tomorrow night at 9:30. So, just so you guys know, a little bit of the schedule. You can also find that. We'll post it on the Facebook fan page. Sundays starts the week, 12 noon. We do a what-if scenario. Then we do a fear countdown at 8 o'clock. We do a fear reaction after the fear show, usually at 10:15. Monday nights 9:30, Tuesday 9:30, Wednesday 9:30, and of course Thursday night 9:30 as well. So anytime during the week, you can pretty much catch us at 9:30. Easy, right? Evelina White, thanks for being here. Who else? Julie McGuire in the house. Madison Dickey, thank you. Appreciate you being here. And you can see Kel put a link up there if you guys want to rock some 999 Army gear. If you happen to be at a Walker Stalker or a Comic-Con, and or if you're somewhere with a Walking Dead person and you take a picture of yourself wearing 999 gear, then put it on our Facebook fan page. Get over there too, because the Cuervo Queen has been pretty famous lately. So you'll catch some pictures of the Cuervo Queen over there as well. Thank you, Kentrell Muhammad. Thanks for taking out time out. You're welcome. Thanks for not mentioning other people's channels in our stream. We know there's other channels out there, and we know some of them are very good, but this is the Army. This is our group. This is our crew. This is our posse. And thank you for that super chat as well. So no hard feelings. Liz Burnett, you have a great night. Howling Wolf, thank you. Tammy Heitzman, thank you. The Fear, the 999. Yeah, I like that shirt too. And I think Jimmy's Jammin' posted one. And also, Jimmy's Jammin' over on the Facebook fan page, he's got like the 999 Army mug. He's got the Walking Dead shirt. He's got the bobbleheads. So yeah, it's a complete part of everybody's Walking Dead collection. And you never know. The 999 Army will probably still be here even after The Walking Dead. Because we'll be talking about other shows and hanging out doing our thing. Steve Smith, thank you so much. He says your channel is awesome. Steve, this is your channel. This is everybody's channel. It's not my channel. You guys make it, but thank you. Matt Burkett, thank you so much for being here. I mean, we really started out with just like a 999 platoon, and then it became like a 999 regiment, and then now it's a freaking army. You guys are amazing. Some of the stuff, the people here and the interaction and the pride they take in this group, just it humbles me every single day to hang out with you guys. So one thing, I never take this group for granted. Fluff Salisbury, thank you so much. Vibe Extreme. Who else we got here? I'm trying to stay a little bit longer tonight because I know I missed a lot of shout-outs the last couple days. So, John Brody says, I love your voice. Thank you, John. I like my voice too. Appreciate that. No, I don't even watch my own playbacks. Maggie B, great way to end the day. Well, thank you. It is. It's a what better way to end the day than hanging out with people that you have a common interest with. Candy Z, thank you, Candy Z. 999 Army. What's up, Hippo? Hippo in the house. Oh, we didn't get our legend either. Where's Mel the Vulture? I'm missing my Mel the Vulture. I'm missing Valar, and I'm missing Epic. The big three. They're watching the playbacks. Crystal Gore says, Kills, I wish I could hear you sing. I'm a professional singer, and I know a good voice. Crystal, now you know in random things that there's been some... I think I got vetoed. I sang a couple songs, and they were like, nah, please, just stop. Who else we got here? I'm just hanging out, man. People watching this playback, I gave them a warning, so hopefully, you know, they don't say, all right, well, last 10 minutes you were just talking. That's kind of what we do. Angie Homan, thank you for being here. Kale, I don't want to put it in Walking Dead videos. I lose subscribers when I do that. We're trying to build a network. Thanks, Walking Dead nerd. Appreciate it. Thanks for everything you did at Comic-Con. Julia says put together a karaoke. I've been discussing it for a long time. We will do a kind of an off-the-cuff karaoke themed show at some point. I got so many ideas how I want to put it together, and I just want it to be fun and casual and not, overly judgmental. And I know that's hard. But yeah, there's a lot of neat stuff that we'll add to the channel. Hippo is going to be repping in Comic-Con. Thank you, man. You know what? That does happen from time to time, and we can revamp that. If you guys are on Kick, the messaging app, if you guys want to just jump in there and message me, KILZHOT. There are times that we have done inebriated texting of songs that happen to be playing, so that could happen from time to time. It's not always super serious Walking Dead ranting stuff. Just if you message me, here's the only caveat to that. If I don't get a chance to respond right away, and this is I'm just being as completely forthright and honest. I get a lot of messages on different formats. And I try to comment on every YouTube comment I can. Clearly I can't because we get sometimes 40 to 50,000 comments a month in YouTube videos, and then there's other. But when I do have time, I'll absolutely just send a quick message back. I mean, some of you guys know. I mean, you've sent me some ideas and I respond. I just don't have a lot of time to type a lot. So sometimes you might get 1 or 2 line answers. And if it takes me a few days, just don't get mad. It's like, hey, you lied. You told me if I messaged you, you'd message back. Michael Curie super chatting in the closing credits. Now that's impressive. Thank you, Kills, and everyone else. This channel has been helping me get through some things in life. It's just amazing. Michael, and as real as I can possibly be, I appreciate that message. And this is a family environment, and I've gotten just some awesome stuff. Just some people that I don't, want to pry, but like yourself, been going through some things, and a network of people and a good support group where you don't go into a group of just negative, trolling people. I don't know. There's this perception, I think, on certain social media that trolling is tough and badgering and belittling people makes you, a stronger figure than you are. There's nothing tough or impressive about that stuff. I mean, what is awesome is no drama, and we try to minimize that as much as possible. And I think that's kind of that. That's that family atmosphere that we have. Why does this person even think that that comment that they just typed would even show up? So, anyway, we're at the end. So, before another rude person pops in here for no reason. See, we're having this big family moment, and then this rude person pops in here at the very end. And Sergeant Chosen One last salute, Kills, in the 999 Army. So, all right, everybody, this has been Casual. The last announcement, we talked about karaoke one night where we'll do that, but we're also considering at some point maybe a Freestyle Friday. And that would be a little bit more of what we've done the last 10, 15 minutes. So just hanging out and talking about just stuff. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night. And if I missed you in a shout out, catch me next time or leave it in the comments below. Peace.